So good evening and welcome to this Atmanirbhar Bharat Summit by Rishihood University and the Rashtram School of Public Leadership. My greetings to everyone on the auspicious occasion of Janmashtami and just around the corner, the 74th Independence Day for India. A very important time for all of us to reflect on the idea of self-reliance, Atmanirbharta. To begin this summit for the next 2 days, we have with us a great set of speakers, a very inspiring set of speakers. And I now request our host for the first session, Shobhit Mathur ji, to introduce Mohandas Pai ji and begin the session. I'll first introduce Shobhit ji. Shobhit ji is the co-founder and dean at the Rashtram School of Public Leadership. He is a graduate of computer science from IIT Bombay, then went to University of Washington for his master's. Came back to serve his country, completed his MBA from the Indian School of Business and has been in the development space for the last 10 years. Shobhit ji, over to you. Please proceed with the session.
Thank you, Sahil. Welcome everyone and happy Janmashtami to all our viewers. For the inaugural session of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Summit, we have a very well-known name who probably doesn't need any introduction. He's Mohandas Pai. Mohandas Pai is a Padma Shri Awardee and a former CFO and board member at Infosys. He's also the co-founder of Akshaya Patra, the world's largest midday meal program. So both these names, Infosys and Akshaya Patra, is something all of us are very well aware of. And he works actively with the government on policy recommendations and guidelines. Mohanji has served as the chairman of the Board of SEBI and is now a board member of the National Stock Exchange in India. He has emerged as one of India's most prolific angel investors. He has helped start over 10 different funds in venture, growth, and public markets. He leads a private equity fund, Aarin Capital, that invests in life sciences and education companies, which is the theme for the Atmanirbhar Bharat Summit as well, including Byju, Counsyl, ZoomCar, Praxify, YourStory, and Licious. So welcome, Mohandas Pai ji.
Thank you.
You'll set the tone.
Good to be here.
Summit. Before we begin, so we want the session's name is Pillars of Nation Building. Right? And the nation building is a popularly used term, but if you could let our viewers know what in your mind are the crucial pillars of nation building. That could set the tone.
Well, I think the pillars of nation building are obviously investment in human capital. The objective of a society is to empower every single citizen to realize his or her potential and dream. And that means we have to invest in school education. We have to give them opportunities for college education. And we must create an economy which will provide them economic sustenance. We must deliver justice in society. And we must ensure that there is good infrastructure so that they can lead a good life. And obviously, all this has to be done in a proper manner across people who are not born equal. Some are poor, some are rich, some are middle class, some belong to disadvantaged groups, and all of them should be given the same opportunity from the state. Some require more help, some require lesser help. So in my view, all this has been laid down in our constitution. Our founding fathers, when they gave the constitution, discussed what kind of India they should have. And that is the idea of India. The idea of India is there in the constitution. We must read that. You must understand the debates. It is not in Licious Delhi writing some all kind of stuff about one person doing everything for India. That is not true. I mean, we are the largest ever movement in human history to fight for our freedom. People from all levels of society, from all groups came together with a common vision. And they gave us this constitution. And the constitution encapsulates all of that. And that is what Atmanirbhar Bharat is all about. And that is the country that we must create for everybody.
So it's very interesting that you started off by saying it is about investment in human capital. And you defined it as education, you defined it as economic growth, you defined it as infrastructure, equal opportunities for everyone. So usually these are seen as very different aspects of nation building. So how does one develop a coherent vision between all of them? We have probably done well on some, not so well on others. Probably they are not leveraging the synergies among themselves. So how does the country go about developing a coherent vision for each of these different pillars of nation building, which you have spoken about?
You see, first of all, we got to put people at the heart of development. And when you put people at the heart of development, we must ensure that every individual get the necessities of life. There should be food on the table for everybody. Everybody should have a shelter over their head. They should have water in the tap, power in the switch, a toilet in the house, a road to the place, education for their children, and protection of life, liberty, and property, justice in society, and reasonable economic opportunities. All these are required. Right. All right. And that is a big vision. It's a very simple vision.
Right.
And to do that, you have to make investment in very many areas. Let me give you an example. 43% of our people depend on agriculture, which is 15% of GDP, growing at 3%. Right. Whereas about 25% of people depend on industry, which is 25% of GDP, growing at 5 to 6%. And the balance depend on services, which is growing at 7 to 8%. The per capita income of people on the land is 55,000 rupees. People in industry is 1,65,000, and people in service 2,25,000. We have too many people on the land, and the farmers who till the soil and grow the crops have one big problem. They don't get the market price for much of their crops. If you look at the agriculture sector, you find that 55% of what we produce is cereals, grains. 45% is animal husbandry, is fisheries, is milk and fruits and vegetables. We are the second largest grower of fruits and vegetables in the world. Right. Now, for much of the rest, there is no MSP. They don't get the farmer, they don't get the price. So they must connect them to market to ensure they get the full price or a good price. Once you're able to do that, once they get money, they will invest in the villages, they will invest on the children, they'll take care of themselves. So our policies are all designed for input subsidies, not to get them a better price. Right now, the government has ensured that they can sell where they want, they got freedom to sell, etc. The Karnataka government has ensured that farmers have the right to sell their property without taking approval from government. So we have to make sure we create policies to take care of the economic sustenance of all these people. Okay. And then we have to make sure, because human capital development is closely linked with economic sustenance. Everybody works, everybody has got some kind of job. They must be paid properly, they must have the ability to get good earnings, whatever can be afforded, and they will use that wisely. They don't require to be told what to do. And then we have a problem of urbanization. Only 35% of India is urban, 52% of the world is urban, 59% of China is urban. Now we got 7,000 small census towns. We must develop the census towns and invest in them, because urbanization creates concentration of human activity. Concentration of human activity creates specialization. Specialization improves productivity, and productivity leads to larger income. Now, 43% of people can't depend on the land. The land cannot sustain them. Maybe 20% is adequate. So they must move elsewhere. They must have economic opportunities. Where will it come? It will come in the smaller towns where we can have labor-intensive industries. Right. Because, these are people who are semi-skilled, are not very skilled, not very educated. They require economic sustenance. And if we can create labor-intensive industries in smaller towns where the costs are lower, they don't have to travel far from the village and go to big cities where they stay in slum, get exploited and paid less. So we have to have a policy of urbanization. We need to have a policy of creating, labor-intensive industries close to that place. And then we need education. All children are in school. We have achieved that. Now we need quality education to improve quality. We need enough universities to take care of people who want to go for a college education. Now, the college education may be indifferent in quality, but doesn't matter. They spend 4 years in college. They create their worldview, etc., and allows them to grow up. Every child should get 12 years of schooling mandatorily in this country. We must ensure that, and on that there cannot be a compromise. We have a midday meal program to give them food so that, the physical sustenance, the mental sustenance is taken care of. And then we must also invest in infrastructure to make sure that everybody has access to power, everybody has access to roads, everybody has access to railways for transportation, mobility, and everybody has access to water, etc. And that has to be done all across the country. And then we must have policies for growth. And what are the policies of growth? Investment in infrastructure, good regulations to grow banking and financial services, to grow technology, to grow manufacture of steel and other commodities, etc. So all that has to come together. And all of them have got cross linkages. You invest in education and create a skill force, people become more productive. You create labor-intensive industries that provides people jobs at the bottom of the pyramid. You create scope for more sophisticated service industry that creates jobs for more educated people who create a greater value. You get farmers the market price, it creates sustenance for them. And here I want to take an example of how China did it. In 1978, when China opened up, China, India had the same per capita income. They played the cards very well. Deng Xiaoping said that China's biggest asset are its people. We also say that because we are both are populous countries. So what did they do? They created incentives for farmers first, in the first 10 years, to own the land or to cultivate what they want and sell to the market. So farmers created surpluses because they had controlled prices. They had collectives. He demolished all that. So farmers' productivity increased 3 times in 15 years. And they got market prices. Farmers got surpluses. They invested in small-scale industry, village cottage industry, etc. So they became self-sustaining and created surpluses. Then he opened up the coastal areas for SEZs and asked the world to come and set up labor-intensive industries. So garments came there, toys came there, light engineering came there, all kinds of industries came there, and many, many people got jobs. And I think the jobs are very important because they took pressure off the land. Young people went from the villages to these areas, worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and created surpluses. Then they created top-class infrastructure, roads, railways, etc., to link all this to the ports for supply chain efficiencies to improve productivity. And after that, they started investing in higher education about 25 years ago. They got 1,000 universities, about maybe 3.5 crore young people in college, right? We have more people in college now than China. And they created the universities, invested in the universities, gave them money for R&D to improve quality. So that I just read they produced the largest number of technical papers in the world this year. And then they incentivized high-tech industries like chip conductors, like silicon chip conductors, like servers, artificial intelligence, etc. And they become a digital power. So they sequence everything else. Now, India did not sequence. India did not sequence, right? Today, we are 35% urban. You can't live in villages in a modern society because you can't provide people the wherewithal. If you look at India's 600,000 villages, about 200,000 villages are less than 500 people. It is not economically viable. And there are too many people depending on the land. They can't sustain themselves. So you have to go on giving them subsidies. India provides 6.5 to 7 lakh crores. 7 lakh crores of subsidies every year. We calculate that. And, this is going into inputs, but it's not improving productivity. So we need to think of it holistically. China has done that. Yes, it's a totalitarian state, but they're sequenced out. And today, their GDP is 15.5 trillion. Our GDP is 3 trillion. We started in 91. They opened up in 78. But nevertheless, they've grown at 9.5% all these years. And then a remarkable job. They lifted 650, 700 million people out of poverty from 1978. We have lifted maybe 250, 300 million people out of poverty. So for us, the roadmap is very clear, and happy that the Narendra Modi government is doing all this in a very big way. So there is a method to the madness.
So if I get you right, Mohandas ji, thanks for all your comments. You are saying urbanization, that is more cities.
No, more cities. Let me stop here. I'm not talking about Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and the big cities.
Yeah, you're saying the
census towns, 7,000 small towns.
Yes.
Create infrastructure there. Give them roads, sewage, water, power. Because they're closer to the villages. They can travel there and set up industries there. Right.
And then you said industrialization. I think you also said some financialization because getting them capital support. Like it has been
because done, the financial service required to take the savings of the enterprise, saving of the citizen and channelize them for investment. They're an intermediary. Our bank lending to GDP is only 50%. China is 250%. Maybe they're over excess. So we have not created enough resources to lend to people, and that's why money is expensive. If money is expensive, rent seekers make more money, not the entrepreneurs.
Right. And I would want to ask your comments on education as well. You said everyone should go through college education. That's where their worldview gets developed, and 12 years of education. Would you also put in skilling there in the sense that?
No, I will say, look, every child should have 12 years of school education. And I believe the skilling should start from maybe class 9, not earlier. Right. For a simple reason, if you want a child to have 12 years of school education, because they have to be in school till 18, they must not go out to work, and we must provide for them at the state cost or in the private sector. If you have skilling too early, specialized skills or something. I mean, I'm not talking about ordinary skills where you know how to repair something, Tokomar and all that. That you can learn. But some specialized skill, the poor get pushed out.
Okay.
The poor get pushed out. The parents will push them out and say, you earn money, do this because you got some skill, work on a weekend, work 2-3 hours, don't go to school. There's poverty.
Right.
So if you do it in the 9, 10, 11, 9th standard onwards, then it becomes easier because by 12, they would have picked up the kind of expertise and skills required. Right. Then people who want to go to college should go to college because data has proven from the National Health Survey that literacy has a direct impact on fertility. But in 2004-5, 2014-15, the literacy of Muslims went up by 30%. And fertility came down from 3.2, 3.3 to 2.6. Same thing for SC/ST. Okay. So there's a direct link. So we must educate the girl child. Now, if people want to go to college, we must have a 3-tier structure. And that's there the national education policy. I'm happy that the bottom should be community colleges. So every young person can go to a community college and they learn some basic higher education, get some kind of education, and they stay together. And the girls go, they, in many parts of India, they will not be pushed into marriage early. Remember, there's a social problem, right? They will learn something, they will become independent. And by the time they come out at 21, they are grown up. Between 18 and 21 is a very crucial time for everybody, all young people, right? You should not push them out too early. So they will remain there and they'll create peer groups and everything else, they will learn. And 2, we need teaching cum research universities where STEM will be taught and many things else will be taught. So first will be the general education community colleges, or maybe the community colleges with trade schools, with skilling. Yeah. So they can be more expert skilling in the community college. You get a general education, plus you get deep skills. Or you go to a college which is teaching cum research, where you get STEM and higher level of skills and education. And the third tier, the top should be possibly research-based universities. Top 100, 200 universities should get funding for research. There, you can do your masters, PhDs, and get very, very deeply educated. Because every person will not have the same capability, and the system should be open so that a young person can go from 3 to 1, or go to 1 directly, or go to 2 directly, and make a choice. The choices should be open to everybody. And in education, we must make sure that every young person who wants a degree should have a scholarship, so nobody is deprived of higher education because of means. And people who can afford to pay should pay. So I think we are coming there. Only 26.5% of young people age group of 18 to 23 are in college today. And that will hopefully go to 50 by 2030. We are coming there, we are doing that, but we require a little bit of a push. So the new education policy takes care and creates a kind of framework for this kind of a massive expansion in creating good human capital.
Right. So I want to dig a bit deeper on that, Mohandas ji, about institutions, particularly when you said you compared us with China as well about the number of universities they have set up, the highest number of technical papers coming out of them, while we are still getting there, and you have been involved with higher education institutions. What I want to find out is the importance of institutions in continuity of policy, because when we said that we also have an electoral cycle, we have different, different political agendas do different terms. So how do good, strong institutions work towards nation building? If you could connect strength of institutions.
You see, good institution will build towards nation building if they are given autonomy.
Okay.
Now, UGC, AICT controls everybody. They tell you what kind of curriculum should be there, how many professors should be there, how many this, how many that building, what kind of classroom. This is rubbish. Now, the university cannot become excellent if you control every activity. University has to be autonomous. Right. They must have financial autonomy, they must have administrative autonomy and academic autonomy. Today, they have academic autonomy ahead of financial and administrative. The new education policy provides for full freedom for the top 200 universities, which is very good. Because unless you prove yourself, you need to be given more leeway. If you don't prove yourself, if you're new, then, you have to come in the regime where you prove yourself. So they require autonomy. For example, you are in Rishihood University, am I right? You have to be given autonomy to determine what kind of courses you want, what kind of students you want, what kind of faculty you want to hire. On the premise, you pay faculty reasonably well. And if you want to charge fees, you should, because government is not going to give you money. And the only source of money is either fees or endowment, and nobody is going to give you an endowment right now. Yeah. So you should be given full freedom to choose everything. And the new education policy also suggests that the courses should be flexible. A young person should do subjects which they want. For example, if I want to do a degree in chemistry, with nuclear physics, with artificial intelligence, with public policy, and dance and cricket, I should be able to do it with majors and minors. But that's what interests me. And industry will pick up and give you a job. Because what does industry want? Industry wants problem solvers, not content. They don't think that you will ever have enough content. Content is available everywhere. You know, with the internet, everything is available. They want a thinking, doing person who's a problem solver. Right. And a multi-facet person who's exposed to multiple things, who can do things. If you play cricket, it's a problem-solving exercise. It's a difficult game. If you're in music, it's a highly skilled game. If you're in nuclear physics, it's highly skilled. They're all highly skilled. And what do they show? They all are examples of developing problem-solving skills. So we require universities to have autonomy. And once you do that, you create autonomous engines of growth, which can expand, which can grow, which can create knowledge, and that expands the pool. Otherwise, you make them anemic. You make them, small, and they can never grow out, and they will be under your thumb. So we require an open, free system where the best can bubble up and compete with each other.
Right. So on this point, where do you feel are we yet to break free from our bondages? I mean, is it the mindset of retaining control, the steel frame of the Indian administration?
You see, I'll tell you, our problem is the colonial administration of the British never went away.
Right.
The British set up a steel frame colonial administration to control Indians, to make sure Indians don't come up. Indians listen to them, and we are under the thumb. After independence, Nehru continued the same thing. They didn't change. So we are the same bureaucrats who want control, who want regulations, who want to tell you what to do. They don't give us our freedom. Right. The freedom that was promised in the Constitution is not there because of the excessive government. Now we require freedom. What capacity does a HRD secretary in government who is there for 3 years have about education compared to a vice chancellor who has spent 30 years of his life in teaching? What expertise does he know? Please tell me. Right. Now, vice chancellor have to go to secretary's house, secretary's office and sit outside the door. For what? Why should they go there?
Right.
It's all the question of that, Nehru regime and the controls, Indira Gandhi's control, the socialistic mindset and the lack of economic freedom that is there. So government does not trust the people of this country. They don't have freedom. We have created a system where government feels you don't know anything, we know everything. They have their arrogance and they want to beat you up and say you're all crooks and we know how to do it. And that's the nature of regulation. We must take away all that. We must create a society based on trust, where there are open regulations. We're supposed to follow that. We trust you to follow that. And if you don't follow that, we will inspect and we'll ask you to respond. And if you're not able to do that, and then, we'll take action against you. Society must be based on trust. And the trust will come in their open regulations. And you must have full freedom to act as per the trust. Of course, there's accountability, all that is required. But accountability doesn't mean that somebody has a danda and goes on beating you and issues regulations every single day. Look at our great university in Nalanda. Nobody ruled over Nalanda. Vikramashila, nobody ruled over them. Before independence, the University of Calcutta, University of Madras, University of Mysore are great universities. Where is the University of Calcutta today? Where is the Presidency College today? Where is the University of Madras today? Where are all these great universities which are more freedom under the British than they have today? So I think we must give them full autonomy. The freedom to act is important. Democracy is a freedom of choice and freedom to make a freedom of choices and freedom to make a choice. If both things are not there, what kind of democracy will be there? So I think we need academic freedom. We need full freedom and autonomy for the good universities.
And that is founded on trust.
It's founded on trust.
Yes.
Law should be founded on trust. Look, for example, I see a very eminent Indian right now in this video, and he will tell you about what regulators do in the banking sector, how they don't trust people and try to beat you up with excessive regulations. I'm sure there's another story. So you need trust. You have to trust people. Society should be based on trust till you prove that you're not trustworthy. It's like the old maxim, you are innocent till proved guilty, right? You can't say you are guilty first and I'm going to put you in jail because, you are dared to cross the road. That's not acceptable.
Yeah, that's a very fair point, especially when you said that though the British have left our shores, their institutions and their thought process is still there, and that's continuing through us and our...
Yeah, and we should not have Delhi control us. We are a federation. We are not a unitary state. We are a federated state, and the Constitution provides for there's been over-centralization of power. For example, even though center and state have the powers defined in the constitution, what about the cities? Bangalore has a mayor who is there for 1 year. What can he do for Bangalore? Our chief minister is like the mayor of Bangalore. Calcutta has a mayor who is for 5 years. Now, Vallabhbhai Patel was the mayor, I think, of Ahmedabad. Subhash Chandra Bose was the mayor of Calcutta.
Yes.
Nehru was the mayor of Allahabad, I think. We need cities with full powers to grow the cities. Look at America. The cities are powerful. The cities are good because they collect taxes, they grow. Our Panchayati Raj system has worked. Panchayats have got more power than cities. So where is the democracy in the cities? So we need the devolution of power to the bottom. Now, what should be the role of the central government? Let me explain. The role of central government should be protection of the outer boundaries of India. Right now, they're doing a good job. Earlier, they didn't do a good job. Protection of the life, liberty, and property of citizens. Are the police protecting of life, liberty, and property? No. They're not enough. They're not doing enough. We're all scared for our lives. Delivery of justice. Are we getting justice in time? No. The state has failed. You have to wait for justice. 15 years, 20 years, correct? You have to wait. And justice has become very expensive. You know, you go to a Supreme Court, you have to pay through your nose. Can a poor man go to a court? Recently, we saw the thing where a very well-networked person who was afraid of arrest called up a lawyer who called up the judge and got a bail. We saw a film star who was given bail at 4 o'clock on the last day before he went to jail. We saw the film star case being heard first in urgency before the judge retired. What kind of justice is this? Justice is when the poorest of the poor are able to go to court and get justice. Like Kanagi got justice, right? In Madurai, I think there's a story of Kanagi who got justice. That is the kind of justice. And justice should be given the poorest of the poor. The cost should come down. Delivery of justice, we are failing. And then management of a currency. Yes, we are managing it fairly well. And that is good. And management of foreign policy. These are the 5 things that the government of India should do. And the rest is policy measures. So the government should know what it has to do. The government should know what the states have to do, what the villages have to do, what the cities have to do, and give them all these powers. Now, we are so top-sided, we are so centralized that, you know, we are in a deep trouble. And that's why cities' governance are not there. And our cities have become hellos. Infrastructure is bad. Slums have come up. Why bad policy? They don't have enough autonomy.
So I think this is the classical Kautilyan state in that sense, a strong but limited state at the center, but more of devolution and decentralization and empowering the Gram Panchayats, the cities to have their own elected representatives running the cities. So
because delivery of government services should be closer to the individual than a faraway place. You think Delhi cares for all of us? Delhi doesn't care for all of us. Delhi cares for itself. We had a ministry for civil aviation, which was more concerned about Air India than concerned about all of us as consumers. We had a ministry of telecom, which is more concerned about BSNL than making sure we got connectivity. Am I right or wrong? We had Department of Financial Services, which is more concerned about protecting public sector banks than making sure we got enough resources for lending. Because of more centralization.
So in the closing, Mohandas ji, I mean, if we flip it around and if you address the youth of the country, we talked about Atmanirbharta as the country itself, but as an individual, as a young person out there listening to this, what would be your message of Atmanirbharta to the youth?
See, my message of Atmanirbharta will be to every individual: dream big, work hard to realize your dream. Nobody can deter you. Nobody can stop you. This country affords great opportunities for you to realize your dream. You can't blame anybody for not realizing a dream. It's going to take hard work. It's going to take smart work. It's going to take perseverance. It's going to take a lot of effort, but you will succeed. Because, you know, I've spent for 35, 40 years in business. I've seen the days when we had a controlled economy. I've seen liberalization come. I worked at Infosys. I saw the rise of a great country from 1991 till 2020. 1991, our GDP was $275 billion. We have grown at 8.5% a year for 29 years to reach $3 trillion today. I've seen the rise of a great industry, the IT industry. Today, we export $150 billion of software, the largest in the world. We have 4.5 million people employed. America has 6 million people in software, 1 million are Indians. Out of 4.5 million people here, 2 million work for American companies. Out of 3 million American companies, out of 8 million American companies, 3 million are Indians. All right? Of the top 10 software service companies in the world, 5 are Indian. Top 5, 3 are Indian. Of the 2 million employees in the top 10, 1.5 million Indians, we dominate. So I saw the rise of a great industry. I saw the rise of a great company like Infosys, which changed corporate India. We brought in best practices, which educated the middle class, which invested in them, in human capital, which have done so many wonderful things to change the face of corporate India. So I've been fortunate. That's why I tell everybody, dream big, work hard to build it. It takes time. Nothing is going to happen overnight. It's going to take 10, 15, 20 years, and you will succeed. The passion, energy. And remember, every year is a better year than the year before. Every year is a better year than the year before. And every year is going to be better and better. From now till 2031, we'll reach $10 trillion. The biggest economic expansion in India's history will happen from now till 2031. This year, the washout. So from next year, we should come back to growth. So you'll be there where India is growing at the fastest, with the greatest opportunities, and you must do well and treat the whole world as a playground. Whole world as a playground. Let your dream take you to any country, work anywhere, but realize your dream and think big.
Right. Thank you, Mohandas ji, for those very apt message that dream big. This is our generation. The next 10 years are going to see a transformation in the country. And it comes from a very credible voice as you, who has seen it all, last 30 years of liberalization and the way the country has grown. And you see much more higher leaps and bounds the country is going to grow in. Thank you. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
I request Sahil to take back the mic. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mohandas Pai ji. Your passion is always visible whenever you talk. And thank you, Shobhit ji, for moderating this session.